It's time to bring out our first two competitors at the Mythic Invitational. Starting with a gentleman who's had extraordinary success, many Mythic championships attended, but none won so far. Can he make his mark right now? From Italy, let's welcome Andrea Mengucci. Andrea has been focusing on the white weenie and Esper control of the meta. It is the deck list that we have seen used most frequently throughout this tournament. His opponent, a renowned competitive player in a variety of titles, here to hopefully continue his run at the Mythic Invitational. From Finland, let's welcome Savjz. Now Savjz is also running white weenie and Esper control, but they are lists of his own construction and they differ quite widely from the rest of the pool. It's time for the top four to get started, gentlemen. Good luck, have fun, to your stations. David and Marshall, let's go back to you.
Thank you, Day9. Appreciate it. Of course, a great introduction as always. And we've got our players getting seated and ready. Mengucci with his trademark scarf. Did you know, David, that he brings indoor scarves and outdoor scarves to these tournaments? Different purposes for each one, he says, but both necessary.
Well, makes sense if you're a scarf aficionado.
Oh, he is that, absolutely.
To have scarves for different purposes.
Yeah, that's right. And
I think I own one, maybe. I don't even know where it is.
Yeah, well, you live in Las Vegas. You don't really need one. Although, indoor scarves?
You need them for dust, you know? Like, go out in the dunes, block the sand from your face.
Yeah, we have 4 European players in our feature, in our top 4 here for the Mythic Invitational, by the way. We're representing Finland and Italy here in this one.
And 2 MPL representatives, Mengucci and Piotr.
Yeah, Piotr Gogovsky, who we'll be seeing a little bit later. In the meantime, you know, strictly speaking here, this should be a David and Goliath type scenario here. Savjz is somebody who just doesn't have the level of Magic experience that Mengucci does, but I just don't feel like it's that far off.
Yeah, not only that, if you just look at the players' demeanors, Savjz just seems so comfortable. I don't think he feels nervous. I don't think the stakes are getting to him. I mean, I think it's going to be an equally matched fight. Both players, I believe, are on white and Esper. So they're familiar with their own decks, but they're probably familiar with the matchups. They know what their opponent's trying to do because they've played it from their side, too.
Yeah, one of the other things about the Mythic Invitational specifically is, of course, duo standard. So the format that we're going to be playing here is completely different than anything you've ever seen at a normal, you know, tabletop Magic tournament before. And this is where the players have brought 2 60-card standard decks. Now, you are allowed to submit a sideboard, though there's no actual sideboarding that's going to happen at this tournament. And the way it works is we're going to play a best 2 games out of 3 match between our 2 players. But the way it'll work is their deck is going to be selected at random at first. And what they're going to do is they're going to play the game, see who wins, go to the next one, and for game number 2, they're going to play whatever deck they didn't play in the first game. The interesting part as well, and something that might come up to be quite a factor here, is the die roll. The see who gets to be on the play versus the draw is going to be really important. And the way that that works here as well is that it's chosen at random for the first game. And for the second game, it's flipped. So if you won the die roll and you got to be on the play in the first game, you're going to be on the draw in the second game. Then, if we end up with a game number 3, the players actually get to choose which deck they want to play. And then the die roll will happen again as well.
Okay, we're going to take a look at Andrea's Esper control list here.
Yeah, so what stands out to you there from the list? This looks pretty straightforward. We've seen 2 different types of Esper decks, generally speaking. One of them uses Dovin's Acuity as kind of its card draw engine. The other one uses Teferi. This is Teferi version.
Yeah, none of the Dovin's Acuity decks made it to the top 4. This was pretty standard, 4 Teferis. This only has 1 Mastermind's acquisition, so it can access a sideboard of 15 cards, sort of silver bullets, to shore up any kind of weakness you find in the main deck.
Yeah, and you can see that there's a lot of different options there, ranging across mana costs and, of course, matchup.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of the cards I'm going to guess that a lot of the players didn't use, but since you only have 1 copy, might as well have every corner case you can have covered.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a few of the less popular ones played a few times. Now, here's the mono white deck from Andrea Mengucci. Again, this is a pretty straightforward situation here where this this deck is kind of what you would expect for mono white. It's the standard build, if you will.
Yeah, and most people have settled on basically a standard. I mean, 20 or 19 lands. You don't see many people differentiate from that. The creature suite is the same in almost every deck. He has 3 copies of Unbreakable Formation. I think I mentioned earlier this weekend, it was the kind of card where when it first came out, a lot of players would run 1, found out it was powerful, went to 2, and now it seems like everyone has settled on 3 because 3 is by far the most common configuration you saw.
Yeah, that is what we see the most. Why don't we move on to Savjz here and take a look at what he's running now. You said it off the top, David. Same decks, right? Esper Control and Mono White Aggro. So here's the Esper Control deck for Savjz.
Yeah, Savjz's deck is pretty much the same as Andrea Mengucci's. I do see 2 copies of Syncopate and 1 Negate. I'm not sure. I have to go back and check on Mengucci's list. That might differ on the counter suite. I do know Savjz, he has a 2nd copy of Kaya, so he has another win condition, because the only ways you can really win are Teferi or Kaya or using Mastermind's Acquisition to get a win condition out of your sideboard.
And speaking of that sideboard, you see a similar configuration to what Mengucci was working with. This is just a wide range of potential options to pick up with Mastermind's Acquisition. That's the only reason that the sideboard is actually here at all, is just because of Mastermind's Acquisition. Now, for the Mono White Aggro deck from Savjz, very, very similar to what Mengu's running. In fact, no, it's not quite exactly the same deck. I see 19 planes versus 20, but it's almost a mirror.
And Mengucci has those Falcons. Rustwing Falcon.
Oh, the trusty Rusty?
Yeah, 2 extra flying creatures. But looks like they're ready to go.
Don't need program plugged in over there. It is.
Okay, so we've got our opening hands here now.
Give me that program cable then. Must be. I fixed
So it looks like it's on Savjz. He has his Esper Control list. He's on the draw. Hand's not bad. His Glacial Fortress will come into play tapped. That's what I notice here. He does have a turn 2 Thought Erasure. If he's up against the other Esper Control list, this draw is pretty good.
Right, and that's a big deal here, David. Let's focus in on that aspect of this, because it really matters how that random element plays out, right? We could see Esper Control versus Mono White on either side of the field, or it could be 2 mirror matches, which is totally different and an absolutely game-changing aspect of this. And we're still, getting set up here to actually get game number 1 going. But boy, the play draw, I could present scenarios to you where you're quite happy with, hey, I'll give you this deck on the play versus this other deck,
right,
and I could just flip the other way around, and all of a sudden,
the hand's terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's the thing about this hand, right? If he's up against the Esper Control deck, he's only got 1 dead card, the Kai's Wrath, but he can discard it to jumpstart the Chemist's Insight. So this hand's all right. If he's up against the Esper deck, it's a little slow. Thought Erasure is nice, but you're on the draw. Kaya's Wrath can catch you up if you find a 2nd white, but he doesn't have any kind of way to interact before that.
All right, well, it looks like we're still getting set up down in the feature match area, so we've got a little head-to-head lined up for you here.
My name is Janne Mikkonen, Savjz. I'm a challenger in this tournament, and I'm from Finland.
Hello, I am Andrea Mengucci. I'm part of the Magic Pro League, and I'm from Italy. Getting in the top 4, it's definitely a great achievement I'm very proud of. It'll be even better if I'll be able to hoist the trophy.
It's been quite an amazing thing, just going from top 16 to top 4, beating Seth Manfield, then Reed Duke, and finally Gabriel Nassif, all 2-0. I mean, that's a statement. You can call me lucky if you wish, but there had to be things that I did right along the way, and I certainly feel so. I think I did my preparation well. I beat so many pros, so now going into top 4, I mean, sure, why not a couple more?
I don't know Savjz. I know he's a big streamer. I'm very curious to see, this new Magic player. I really hope to know him better after this event.
At the end of the day, it's not that different playing against the pros than it is playing against some others. It doesn't really matter who I'm playing against, I suppose.
All right, Mr. Savjz, prove me you're a great card player and you can beat me even in Magic.
And welcome back. Take a look at an opening hands here once again. This one's from Mengucci.
Yeah, let's take a look at... No, I believe this is Savjz's hand, yeah? He's on.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry, David. You are correct.
Let's take a look at
Savjz's hand.
Take a look at Mengucci's opening hand, see what matchup we have here and what he's thinking about.
Yeah, of course, that's going to be the big question, right? The first big hurdle here is, what is my matchup? Now, the players know each other's lists. They will have had a chance to review the list. They'll know them by heart for the most part. They'll know the important cards and the things that they need to be looking out for. But in the meantime, they're waiting to figure out who it is that they're seeing on the other side and what deck it is. All right, it looks like Mengucci is on mono white here.
Yeah.
He's got the Legion's Landing. He's got some of the openers, and he might be in decent shape here.
Yeah, this hand is actually probably going to be backbreaking for the Esper control deck. He's got 2 lands, he's got a lot of 1-drops, and he does have Unbreakable Formation, which in the aggro matchups can be used to get through a lot of damage, but here it's usually used as a sort of a counter spell for Kaya's Wrath.
Yeah, but you know how it is? Sometimes it's just the 1 turn, right? Sometimes you just need literally 1 turn to have your creatures survive a Kaya's Wrath, and all of a sudden you can go.
All right, Sky Marcher Asper to lead. Now, when you get to start with 3 1-drops on 1/1, 2 on the second turn, it's really powerful because it allows you to flip Legion's Landing into Adanto the First 4 on turn 3.
That's right. So this is a huge start here for Mengucci because right now, Savjz has no way to affect the board. He's going to have to settle for a Thought Erasure and plan for the coming turns. That Unbreakable Formation does look pretty annoying against the Kaya's Wrath. That might be his best way to shore up the board here. But you know what he's not going to be able to do anything about? Legion's Landing transforming.
Yeah, even if he is able to draw the 4th mana in time and cast this Kaya's Wrath, Adanto the First 4 is just going to keep pumping out 1/1 vampires.
Wow, and look at this history of Benalia as well off the top. So this is looking really good for Andrea Mengucci in the early stages.
Yeah, and if he doesn't find a 4th land right here, the 3rd chapter of History of Benalia is going to make those knights even larger, and I believe he'll have a lethal attack.
Easy lethal. He's got lethal
on turn
anyway.
4.
2, 4, 6, 8 on board without it. The question is there a land on the top of the library? Now, it does have to make white mana here as well, does it not?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, this is a big draw.
And if it's a
very
glacial
early.
fortress, if it's a glacial fortress, it comes into play tapped.
So glacial fortresses are off the menu here as well. What does he find? Oh, it's Mastermind's Acquisition.
Wow,
that is not going to get the job done. He just can't cast any of his spells, and all Mengucci has to do is turn his creature sideways. He's going to have game number 1 in the books.
Yeah, this is a bit of an overkill.
Seriously.
7 extra damage on turn 4.
Bang, 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 and you are dead, Savjz. So that is game number 1 going to Andrea Mengucci. Kind of interesting part, we're going to get the exact same thing, just flipped around for game number 2.
Yeah, Savjz is going to hope he has the same kind of draw.
Exactly.
That draw was incredible.
That was a fantastic draw, and nothing doing for Savjz. He just had too many expensive cards that he couldn't cast in his hand. Now, once again, when we come in here, we're just right into the action. There's no sideboarding. They don't decide who goes play draw. They don't get to choose their deck. They just get right down to the action here, and this is going to be the table's turn. So Savjz is going to be the one with the mono white deck, and he's facing down the MPL player, Andrea Mengucci, with Esper Control.
Actually, he didn't have to have a plains. He also could have drawn Cry of the Carnarium. It wouldn't get rid of all the creatures. Snubhorn Sentry would live, but it would have gave him a little bit more time. All right.
Here's the opening hand now for Savjz. So how does this one look? Well, he snap kept it. It's got a 1, a 2, a 3 drop, and, well, call it a 4 drop if you want for the Loxodon, but yeah, that's a great hand.
Yeah, this hand's very solid. I mean, no complaints here. Obviously, you like to go 1 drop on 1 and 2 more on 2, but Tithe Takers, especially knowing you're up against Esper Control, really solid option.
Now the question is, what happens on Mengucci's side of the battlefield? And if we take a look here from Mengucci's perspective, what does he have going on? He's got a Mortify, a Search for Azcanta, a Cast Down, and he does have that Cry of the Carnarium that you mentioned would have been quite good in game number 1 for Savjz. Let's see if that can carry him to an early win.
Cry of the Carnarium is actually,
it looks amazing.
Especially amazing here because both creatures have abilities that trigger when they go to the graveyard, but Cry of the Carnarium, they're not going to the graveyard.
So ideally here for Mengucci, he would take a turn to just cast Search for Azcanta and then leverage that Cry. That looks like what he's doing here, David.
Yeah, and he's going to hope his opponent plays right into it and plays some more creatures with 2 toughness, which as we see the hand, History of Benalia does that, Dauntless Bodyguard does that. I think we might see Bodyguard into Loxodon, maybe? Although maybe he doesn't play anything. Maybe he just, you know, he's aware of Cry of the Carnarium.
Ooh, I like this. You see that? Savjz said, hold on just a second.
No,
I'm going to take my hands off the keyboard and mouse, and I'm going to take a minute to here have a little think, because this is an important moment here in this game number 2. And remember, Andrea Mengucci is already up a game.
So he can play the Loxodon now, as is, convoking those 2 creatures, or he can play the Bodyguard and then convoke, but then that overextends a little bit, plays into Cry the Carnarium or Chaos Wrath on 4.
He's going to go for the Loxodon here, which would leave him a threat behind, even if Cry the Carnarium were to be cast.
Yeah, and unfortunately for him, Mengucci's hand is just perfect against this draw.
Wow.
He's got Cry the Carnarium to take care of the small creatures, cast down or mortify for a large one.
His hand is amazing against
and
this
he's
creature.
deciding whether to draw another cast down, so he can have 3 spot removal spells in addition to the Cry the Carnarium.
You know, another thing that we have to notice here, David, is that over on Savjz's side, there's no Legion's Landing, right?
No.
There's no way to just sort of recover from a sweeper over and over again. So boom, 2 for 1 here for Andrea Mengucci. He casts Cry the Carnarium, takes out the 2 smaller creatures, and leaves Savjz with just the Venerated Loxodon. Now he is going to add a Dauntless Bodyguard, and it looks like another Venerated Loxodon to the battlefield here, though.
Yeah, and that Dauntless Bodyguard gets to protect the first Venerated Loxodon from cast down.
All right, he's actually going to go for History of Benalia instead, and that's going to clear him up to attack for 4 damage this turn and set up some real beatings next turn. But again, triple removal spell hand here from Mengucci. Can he leverage these removal spells to get the job done? Let's find out.
Well, he could, if he wants, he can play the Watery Grave, take 2 damage, go to 11, cast down the Venerated Loxodon, and then respond to the Dauntless Bodyguard's sacrifice with another cast down. Or he can cast down the Bodyguard and respond. Either way, he can cast both if he would like and get rid of both creatures.
I think we're going to see that. No, I was wrong. He's just going to go for the more life-efficient play here of only using Mortify, and he's actually going to take out History of Benalia with it. So he's really thinking long game here.
Yeah, he's preventing the 2/2, and he's also preventing Chapter 3 in a couple of turns, making those 2/2s even larger.
Boy, but this next turn could hurt pretty badly here. Savjz already with 8 power on the battlefield.
Yeah, and I think you're likely going to see Savjz just attack and maybe hold some creatures to kind of reload if his opponent plays Chaos Wrath.
Yeah, he could go for the Hunted Witness and the Venerated Loxodon, and he's going for it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, due to the vigilance, he just
no
says,
guts,
you know,
no glory.
Well, his opponent doesn't have a second white, and you can tell by the way he's played, he's not likely holding it. So he knows the opponent has to draw it and have Chaos Wrath in hand or not draw it. So it's a calculated risk. It does put your opponent up against it. If their hand is the hand we see, 2 cast downs, there's no real way out of this.
But I mean, Mengucci's facing lethal multiple ways here. Even with the 2 copies of cast down, he can kill both of the Venerated Loxodons and still be facing 7 damage at 5 life here.
Yeah, I mean,
we're just done.
Savjz has pulled this one out.
Yeah, and that's it. Wow, this mono white deck seems unstoppable in this particular matchup. You'd think that having drawn a sweeper and 3 removal spells would be enough for Mengucci. Not even close. Savjz picks up game number 2 and is going to force the game 3 decider here in our opening round of the top 4 at the Mythic Invitational.
So many of these games we've seen where the white deck looks like it's up against it have been pulled out by Venerated Loxodon. It's just such a powerful card. It allows the small creatures to actually become way more relevant, put a way faster clock on your opponent. Amazing card.
Yeah, really seriously has been doing double duty throughout the course of our 4-day event here from PAX East. Take a look at Andrea Mengucci and Savjz. Now, this is getting interesting because we have a strategic element reintroduced here.
The thing is,
now they get to choose.
In this spot, both these players have been in this spot before, on camera with us, where they've been Esper Control and Mono White against Esper Control and Mono White.
Yeah.
And time again, they've both chosen Esper Control.
Yeah.
We've seen lots of Esper mirrors. Something that I mean, I know the Esper Control deck is supposed to have a good matchup against the white deck, but as we saw, these white decks...
Does it?
both white decks just smashed the Esper Control decks.
Yeah, even through a good draw there for me.
And I'm sure they both reviewed their opponent's history and saw what they chose in this matchup, and they both know that they're likely to go on Esper. I might just say, you know what, I'm going to play the white deck and try to do it again. But as we see, both players are on Esper. I mean, I get it, you know, because Chaos Wrath, Cry the Carnarium, these cards are hard to deal with when you're a mono white deck, but I'd like to make them have it. If you don't have it, you lose.
Yeah. Well, they've both gone with Esper here, and we are underway again. The play draw was determined at random, though in the Esper mirror, it's less important than it would be if one of the players had chosen their white deck. A key play here early, though, is Search for Iskanta hitting the battlefield for Savjz, and right away, Mengucci says, no, that will not stand. He takes that thing down.
I'm actually surprised. I mean, I know the room, it's hard to find room for all the cards you want to find, and Search for Iskanta is not that great against the aggro decks because it takes so long, but I'm surprised we don't see 3 copies in these decks because with best of 1, you have so many situational cards in your deck. Like right now, none of these guys want to draw a cast down or a moment of craving, and things like Search for Iskanta allows you to filter those draws.
And we're going to see a lot of jockeying for position here rather than actually resolving relevant permanence. If you haven't seen these type of control mirrors before, this is generally how things go in the early stages of the game and all the way into the mid game as well. It's entirely possible that while the players are casting spells, that they don't have anything relevant on the battlefield as far as wind conditions go for quite a while. So this is a game of patience, and one of the key things that you're going to want to keep an eye on to kind of figure out who's ahead, who's behind, are land drops, actually. How many lands?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say about the key thing in the control matchups is making those land drops early, not missing them. And that's what the card draw spells allow you to do. So I think you're going to see the players, as we see, just drawing cards, trying to hit those land drops. You can use the dead cards to recast your Chemist's Insights. So,
yeah, get that jump start out of the graveyard. A lot of dead cards, though. One of the key cards, though, in the matchup is Thought Erasure. It is a way that you can interact with your opponent's hand while they're trying to set up for future plans.
Yeah, Thought Erasure is a really powerful card, especially in these control mirrors, because there are so many cards that are not relevant, that the few ones that matter, you just take it out of your opponent's hand. And even if it gets countered, you just got rid of an Absorb, which will help you resolve something later.
And look at this, Mengucci's trying to clear the way for his first big play of the game. Kaya, Orzhov Usurper hits the battlefield. Savjz said, well, I better use my counterspell here, the Absorb, to take out this Thought Erasure, because otherwise you could just take it away anyway, plus the Surveil. So that cleared the way for Kaya. How big of a problem is this for Savjz?
It's a problem, but not right now. I mean, it does need to be dealt with. You know, it takes a while to get going. It's not going to kill you. You have quite a few turns, but if you notice, it's kind of like a game of chess here. Mengucci got his opponent to tap out, was able to resolve Kaya. His opponent wouldn't be able to remove that Kaya, so if his opponent did or played something like Teferi, it's going to tap him out, and now Mengucci with 2 Vraska's Contempt can just untap Vraska's Contempt the Teferi, and if he did draw a 7th land, he'd even be able to keep up Absorb.
Yeah, this is really impressive stuff by Mengucci, because oftentimes you don't want to be the first one to act here. He instigated a fight, was the first one to act, but now he gets to be the one to react, because the players are actually somewhat constricted based on the amount of lands that they have in the battlefield. Here's Thought Erasure to clear the way. And again, you see the power of Thought Erasure clearing away a Kaya's Wrath that would have no effect on this game. And now that Mengucci knows every card in his opponent's hand, he can use Vraska's Contempt to kill Teferi.
Yeah, I mean, it's all coming up in Mengucci here.
Yeah.
He's in a commanding position. If you look at Savjz's hand, he's got 2 land, 3 land now, 2 removal spells that aren't relevant in this match, and all he's got left is a Kaya. And Mengucci's got an Absorb and a Vraska's Contempt to get rid of it, and 2 Chemist's Insights that he can jumpstart it, you know, later in the turn.
So there's Kaya, Orzhov Usurper there for Savjz, and only 1 unknown card. If you look at the top part of your screen, you'll see the little eyeball next to those cards in Savjz's hand. Those are the cards that Mengucci has seen. And that's a reminder to Savjz, hey, he knows about these.
Now, the cool thing for Savjz is his Kaya was able to exile both Chemist's Insights from Mengucci's graveyard, so that was really important.
Savjz is going to play one of the known cards versus the unknown Drowned Catacomb to at least try to represent that he could have drawn some type of interactive spell like a Negate. He only has one of those in his deck, though.
Yeah, so Mengucci's actually kind of in a spot here. You can use the Vraska's Contempt to get rid of the Kaya, but you want to be prepared in case the Teferi resolves, because you've already gotten rid of the Mastermind's Acquisition. So the only way Savjz can win is with a Teferi, and you've already got rid of 1, so he doesn't want to lose to a Teferi, so he might not worry about this Kaya for now. He's definitely not going to play the Vraska's Contempt in his main phase anyways, but I think we're going to see him wait and be a little more patient.
Here's Thought Erasure now for Savjz.
Now with this coming, he might actually go ahead and cast it, because the only cards your opponent probably would take are Absorb or Vraska's Contempt, and they take the Contempt, you don't have an answer to the Kaya, and if somehow that Absorb has to be used, you won't have an answer to a future Teferi. So I think we might see it used now.
Yeah, you're right, David. He's going to fire off Vraska's Contempt. So Kaya, second Planeswalker exiled here by Andrea Mengucci. He's sending him packing.
So he's going to go ahead and take this Absorb.
Yeah.
And it's basically going to be pretty much even, except one side has a Kaya in play. Now, it doesn't generate any card advantage, but it does eventually threaten to win the game.
Yeah, we could be in a situation where the first player to resolve a Teferi can just run away with this thing. And there's a Cry of the Carnarium off the top. That doesn't do anything from this position. So all it is plus Kaya and pass the turn back. And this is a real race to Teferi. Who can find
Teferi
first?
This is a top deck war. The Kaya gives an advantage, but like I said, it's not an advantage that's card advantage. So it's nothing. It just gives the inevitability to Mengucci, but someone's going to find a Teferi before Kaya can win, most likely.
Right. Also, high-level play here from Mengucci. He draws Thought Erasure. Ooh, that's a nice one off the top of the library there. He finds an Absorb. He does not cast Thought Erasure. He wants to wait until there is a Teferi or something else that he wants to resolve, and he can use it to force a counterspell or take one out of his opponent's hand.
Yeah, that's a really heads-up play to save your card. Now, I think if you're Savjz, you want to actually maybe wait. You don't want to give your, okay, now he played an 8th mana. You don't want to give your opponent a chance to Kaya and exile that card, so you want to be able to cast it now, pass, and when they go to activate Kaya, you can go ahead and cast it again.
So the question now is, does he have to do that now to save the value, basically? He's got it locked up in the Chemister's Insight.
He can respond to the Kaya activation if he wants.
Looks like he's just going to go for it right now. Still no sign of Teferi here for Savjz or for Mengucci.
He actually wants Teferi to be the 3rd card from the top of his deck because he doesn't know if he hits it now, he's about to get Thought Erasure, most likely.
He did, although he did not hit. He hit Moment of Craving and Mortify before passing the turn back. Mengucci says, what do you got going on over there, buddy?
Now, having
turns out it's a lot of removal.
A couple Mortifies in hand is good because he has answers to this search for Azcanta.
And once again, this game revolving around Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. You see Mengucci take away Vraska's Contempt, one of Savjz's only answers to a resolved Teferi.
Yeah, he left Savjz with his own Kaya, but he's so far behind. His Kayas have way less loyalty.
Yeah, and exiled cards, there's not even that much food to go around at this point. Here's Kaya Orzhov Usurper now for Savjz, but who can be the first player?
Now you noticed Mengucci just looked how many exiled cards Savjz had, and it was 11. Kaya's ultimate costs 5 loyalty. He's at 10, so he can do it twice. He can do 22 with Kaya over the next 2 turns, but Savjz happens to be at 23.
And really just no way to get that extra 3 from this Esper deck, right? It's not like they have creatures chip in there.
Kaya's actually going to win the game a lot sooner than I thought.
And Mengucci's doing math. Did you see that? He's counting it up. He's thinking, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. And he's going to go ahead and counter Kaya with that Absorb, and nothing doing for Savjz here. Remember, there it is, Teferi, Hero of Dominaria off the top of the library, and Mengucci cannot put that thing on the stack quickly enough. It resolves plus, and that's a card drawn plus 2 untapped lands, and this snowballs very, very quickly. If Savjz doesn't have an answer in the next draw step or 2, we could see Andrea Mengucci seal the deal.
Yeah, by countering the Kaya, now there's another card in the graveyard, which will get exiled by Kaya and be 12 cards exiled. Then he can actually use the ultimate next turn to do 12, and the following turn to do 12 more and kill him. So Savjz is going to have to find an answer very quickly.
Interesting, it looks like he's going to go for one of the ultimates right now. That's going to put him down to 12. We'll have to get another card exiled at some point here, though. And it was Absorb off the top of the library for Savjz, but it is too late as Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, already on the battlefield, doing what Teferi do, and here's a +1. That means that next turn, Kaya
is lethal.
All Mengucci needs to do is just not put anything on the stack for that Absorb to hit, and he can just win the game. There's a land off the top for Savjz, not what he wanted to see here.
Now, Savjz knows that it's lethal, so he's going to cast Kaya's Wrath here and absorb his own spell to go to 15.
Super smart stuff here from Savjz. He's looking at the math and saying, okay, I need to hold priority here. And then cast Absorb on my own card. And Mengucci says, okay, okay, you can play. I see what you're doing. I see you. The problem for Savjz here is that that's a great way to stem the bleeding. It does not solve the core problem that he faces, though.
Well, now there's more cards in his graveyard.
Exactly.
Kai can just exile those. It goes to 14 and then 2 more turns.
It'll buy him a couple of extra turns. The real question is there any way out for him at this point at all? He has fallen so far behind. Teferi is now on 7 loyalty, so next turn 8, and then the turn after that we could see an ultimate. And this is just getting brutal here for Savjz.
He's going to have to draw.
Andrea Mengucci putting on a show.
Running Vraska's Contempts, I believe. And even so, there's another Teferi in hand, so he's kind of needs like 3 in a row.
3 Vraska's Contempts in a row is a tall order, to say the least. He has had 1 taken away with Thought Erasure as well. Hey, he found a target for one of those Mortifies. Might as well take that thing down. Untap a couple of lands, and yes, we do need to discard a card here for Mengucci because he's drawn so many extra cards. What's the card off the top? It's a Hollowed Fountain. That is not going to get the job done. Mengucci knows about the other 2 cards in hand, so Savjz says, I'm just going to keep Hollowed Fountain in my hand, at least give you a little bit of pause about what I might or might not have here. But the truth is, he's just posturing at this point because Andrea Mengucci is firmly in the lead and looking to pick up this early victory here in our top 4.
Yeah, and I think there's 14 cards in exile, so once he exiled this graveyard, it'll be 15. So the following turn, in addition to a Teferi emblem, he can just Kaya's ultimate to finish off his opponent. Yep, there are 15 now.
There's 15 now, and that is exactly lethal. So if the turn gets passed back to Andrea Mengucci, we're done that turn. By the way, he used Mastermind's acquisition to get Devious Cover-Up and a Teferi, Hero of Dominaria.
He needs a card we saw spoiled today.
Too little, too late.
In the panel.
Yeah.
A white and
he needs
3.
cards that aren't legal in Standard to win this game at this point.
I think instead of white and 3, destroy all multicolored permanents. That's what he needs right here.
Oh boy, don't we all?
Get those Planeswalkers out of here, but unfortunately.
And that Devious Cover-Up will seal the deal for Andrea Mengucci. All he needs to do is use that ultimate ability on Kaya, and that's the scoop. Andrea Mengucci wins the game. Now remember, we're playing double elimination, so nobody's done just yet, but Andrea Mengucci picks up that critical first game to advance through the brackets. Great stuff from the feature match area here, and thank you so much for joining us on the stream or live in person here from PAX East. Either way, we're happy to have you along at Marshall Sutcliffe. That's David Williams. Thanks so much for coming along for coverage of the Mythic Invitational powered by Owned by HP. That is only our first match of the day. We've got a whole lot more to bring you over the course of the day. We're working our way all the way to the finals. Again, $250,000 for first prize at this thing. Andrea Mengucci just took one big step closer to that.
Yeah, and we've got potentially 4 or 5 more if we have to have winning twice in the finals. Plus, we got some preview cards throughout the day. It's going to be a fun day.
Yeah, and that is interesting as well. You know, this is double elimination, so again, Savjz still very much alive in the tournament, but has no more wiggle room. But there is kind of some interesting bracket playouts where somebody could play somebody who goes 2-0, makes it to that last bracket, and they could have to play them again if they win that first time.
Yeah, if Savjz wins his next 2, he'll be in the finals, and whoever he faces in the finals, or whoever gets there from the lower bracket, if they win the first time, they have to win again because it is double elimination. So the guy who's 2-0 has to lose twice.
Yeah,
to be eliminated.
If Mengucci wins again, he would be into the finals there. So super interesting to see how this plays out in double elimination, but only 4 players left in the field. You're going to have to earn it. That's the lesson to be learned from that. But for now, we've got Becca Scott with Andrea Mengucci.